welcome everyone. Today we'll be discussing the first unit, Geographical Regions and Sources of Block 1, Reconstructing Ancient Indian History. Unit 1 delves into the intimate connection between humans and the land, explaining how historians have depicted geographical spaces and explored the awareness of space within ancient societies. Additionally, we'll examine the key resources used to piece together the history of ancient India. The objectives of this paper include recognizing the importance of geography and history. Students will grasp why it's crucial to comprehend a country's physical features when studying its history, recognizing how geography can profoundly influence historical events. The students will further understand how landscapes, rivers, and ecosystems have shaped civilizations and historical developments. Students will become familiar with the various types of historical sources such as archaeological artifacts and inscriptions. This unit will highlight the difficulties associated with using literary sources for historical research, addressing issues related to biases, interpretation, and the accuracy of historical information found in written records. The study of history is significantly incomplete without considering geography, as it forms an essential component. Geography provides a crucial context that history relies upon. This is because history is not just about the human story, it also encompasses the history of the environment. These two aspects are intertwined and challenging to separate, with a long history of mutual influence between human societies and their surroundings. The interaction between humans and nature dates back to the early times, with each shaping the other. In the Indian subcontinent, there exists a wide range of geographical situations, from arid deserts to regions with heavy rainfall, from extensive alluvial plains to mountains and rocky plateaus. Environment in this context refers to the physical surroundings and conditions that impact people's lives. Factors like soil, rainfall, vegetation, and climate exert significant influence on the development of human societies. In the latter part of this unit, we delve into the various types of sources that historians rely to reconstruct the past. There are three primary categories of sources: literary, archaeological foundings, and foreign accounts. These sources collectively contribute to our understanding of historical events and the evolution of civilizations. Purpose of describing the physical characteristics is to familiarize you with the visible variations in India's topography. The geographical layout of a region is closely linked to how settlements develop. There are three fundamental physiographic divisions: the Himalayan uplands, the Indo-Gangetic plains, and peninsular India. The Himalayas, Earth's youngest fold mountains, constantly contribute large amounts of alluvium to the plains through weathering and erosions. These mountains also supply the perpetual flow of three major river systems: the Indus, the Gangas, and the Brahmaputras. The Indus plains witnessed the rise of the first civilizations, while the Ganga plains have played a crucial role in sustaining urban life, states, societies, and imperial structures since the first millennium BCE. A substantial intermediate region known as Central India separates the northern plains from peninsular India. This area, extending from Gujarat to western Odisha, spans 1600 kilometers and includes the Vindhyan and Satpura ranges and the Chota Nagpur plateau. South of this zone begins peninsular India, characterized by four major rivers: the Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri, that flow into the Bay of Bengal. These rivers have created extensive alluvial plains and supported cultural growth throughout history. The Narmada and Tapti rivers flow westwards and empty into the Arabian Sea after traversing hilly central India. The Deccan Plateau stretches from the Vindhyas in the north to the southern borders of Karnataka. This region, particularly known for its black soil, is agriculturally rich, yielding crops like cotton, millets, peanuts, and oilseeds. The early farming cultures in western and central India, including the Chalcolithic, emerge in this area. Up to this point, we've discussed the general characteristics of broad geographical divisions. Now let's delve into the specific major geographical regions some of which align with the linguistic divisions. The Himalayas and the Western Frontier. The Himalayas can be categorized into three main units. The Eastern Himalayas, extending from Assam to South China along the east of the Brahmaputra River. Despite challenging terrain, cultural influences from Southeast Asia and South China have flowed into this region during prehistoric and historical periods. The central Himalayas, stretching from Bhutan to Chitral and bordering the Tibetan Plateau. Trade and other interactions have historically occurred between India and Tibet along this frontier. The narrow Hindu Kush range extends from the southwest from the Himalayas into Afghanistan, covering ancient Gandhar. Western Afghanistan shares geographical and cultural similarities with eastern Iran, while southeastern Afghanistan has had cultural ties with the Indian subcontinent since the Neolithic age. The Khyber Pass, Kabul River, and other routes connect this region with the Indus Plains. Notably, the Shortogai site in Afghanistan was a trading outpost of the Harappan civilization. Ancient cities like Kabul and Kandahar are strategically located along trade routes connecting Iran and India. Key trade routes linking the Indian plains with Iran and Central Asia pass through Bolan and Khyber passes. Over the course of history, these routes facilitated the movement of traders, invaders, and diverse cultural influences. The Greeks, Shakas, Kushanas, Hunas, and others entered India through these routes. Buddhism and various aspects of Indian civilization also spread into Afghanistan and Central Asia through these passes. Historically, the hills of Afghanistan and Baluchistan have played a vital role as a significant frontier zone. The Indus Plains. The mountain passes lead to the fertile plains of the Indus, which can be divided into two regions, Punjab and Sindh. Punjab, now split between India and Pakistan, is named after its five rivers, Ravi, Beas, Chenab, Jhelum, and Satluj. These rivers, flowing through a vast alluvial plain, have turned the region into a major food source for the subcontinent and a cultural melting pot. Sindh, located along the Indus River, produces significant quantities of rice and wheat. It's worth noting that the Indus Plain nurtured the subcontinent's earliest urban culture during the late 3rd and early 2nd millennium BCE, with major cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in Punjab and Sindh respectively. The Ganga Plains can be categorized into three subregions, upper, middle, and lower. The upper plains, covering western and central Uttar Pradesh, included the Doab region. It has a history of cultural synthesis and conflict, with evidence of Harappan cultural extension. It was also a focal point for the painted grayware culture and later Vedic activity. The Middle Ganga Plains, encompassing eastern Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, were the locations of ancient Kosala, Kashi, and Magad. This region has a history of city life, a money economy, and trade dating back to the 6th century BCE. It served as the foundation for Mauryan imperial expansion and remained politically significant until the Gupta period in the 5th century CE. The upper and middle Ganga plains are geographically defined by the Himalayas to the north and central Indian hills to the south. The lower plain aligns with the Bengal province, featuring wide plains formed by the alluvium from Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers. The Ganga plains have hosted a greater number of settlements and maintained a higher population density than similar regions. They have been the core of Indian civilization from the 1st millennium BCE to the classical phase to the present day. Adjacent to the Bengal plains lies the extensive Assam Valley, created by the Brahmaputra, culturally linked to Bengal but historically developed later, similar to Odisha. Eastern, Western, and Central India. Central India stands as a distinct region without a singular focal point. The southeastern part, situated east of the Aravallis, forms a sub-region called Malwa, known for its fertile soil and abundant crop yields. Chalcolithic settlements are well distributed in this area, suggesting its role as a bridge between Harappa and other Chalcolithic communities in central India and northern Deccan. Central India encompasses present-day Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. This region, particularly in southern Bihar, western Odisha, and eastern Madhya Pradesh, has been a hub for tribal communities. Cultural influences from neighboring regions have gradually integrated these tribal communities into the dominant caste-present societal framework, starting from early historical times and even more during the Gupta period. Gujarat, located on the western border of central Indian belt, is categorized by three natural divisions: Saurashtra, Anartha, and Lata. The central part of Gujarat is known as Kathiawar. The run of Kutch, a low-lying area, becomes a swamp during the monsoon season. Despite its appearance of isolation, Gujarat has a long history of continuous ancient settlements dating back to the Harappan period. Its protected position and extensive coastline have made it a focal point for coastal and external trade for over 4,000 years. To the southwest of the Ganga Delta, at the eastern end of the central Indian hills, lies the coastal plains of Odisha. This region has served as both an agrarian base and a center for socio-cultural development. Odisha began to develop its linguistic and cultural identity relatively late, starting in the first millennium CE. Peninsula India. The contours of Peninsula India are defined by the Deccan Plateau and surrounding coastal plains. The plateau can be divided into four major regions, largely corresponding to the states of Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Karnataka. In southwestern Andhra, Neolithic settlers relied on pastoralism as an adaptive strategy, while in the northern Deccan, Chalcolithic communities increasingly turned to agriculture. The extreme south. The wide eastern coastal plains in the southern part constitutes Tamil Nadu, with the Kaveri plains and the delta at its core. Seasonal rivers in this region have led peasants to depend on tank irrigation since the Pallava Chola era. Ecological variations have supported alternative, sometimes interrelated ways of life as documented in the Sangam literature. The western coastal plain, extending further south, corresponds to the region known as Malabar or present-day Kerala. Kerala not only produces rice and other crops, but is famous for exporting pepper and spices to the west since the post-modern period. Despite its relative isolation by land, Kerala has been open to influences from Christianity and later Islam, primarily arriving by sea. Another approach to categorizing regions involves classifying them as areas of perennial nuclear regions, areas of relative isolation, and areas of isolation, offering valuable insights into their characteristics. In the context of Indian history, certain regions have early emerged as enduring centers of power, characterized by an unbroken succession of influential kingdoms. Conversely, less fortunate regions have not enjoyed this status. Perennial nuclear regions align with major river valleys such as Ganga, Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, and Kaveri. These areas have consistently attracted human settlements due to their abundant resources and the convergence of vital trade and communication routes. Consequently, they have logically evolved into significant centers of power. However, it is essential to acknowledge that whether a region becomes nuclear or remains isolated is closely tied to historical factors. Areas of relative isolation within central India, such as the territories of Bhil, Bastar, and the Rajmahal Hills, differ from nuclear regions in aspects like settlement patterns, agrarian history, social organization, and state systems. Because regional development is rooted in historical context, the distinction between these three region types isn't permanently fixed and can shift over time. Can geography and the environment be considered primary drivers of these distinctions? While natural regions offer possibilities, these potentials are actualized through human intervention, particularly at different stages of technological advancement. Consequently, history cannot be interpreted solely through the lens of geographical determinism. Examining the Harappan civilization, we observe that its rise and fall was shaped by the dynamic interplay between the environment and societal structures. This ancient urban civilization emerged across a vast expanse in the northern western region of the Indian subcontinent. Archaeological evidence reveals the extensive use of plows during this period. Additionally, the Harappan civilization began cultivating indigenous rainy season crops like rice and pulses along the winter crops of wheat, barley, and lentils, which had West Asian origins. This surplus agriculture production facilitated the establishment of numerous towns, where the surplus resources drove further processing, material exchange, trade, and artisanal activities. Long distance trade, as opposed to small scale barter, necessitated record keeping. And the Indus Valley civilization presents the earliest evidence of literacy in the Indian history. The gradual decline and disappearance of urban centers in this civilization have been attributed to various factors, including the drying of the Saraswati River, Indus River flooding, climatic changes substantiated by paleobotanical evidence, soil salination due to irrigation, and the overexploitation of natural resources, leading to the depletion of the natural vegetation cover. Scholars emphasize ecological imbalances as a significant contributor to the civilization's decline, primarily caused by the continuous human and animal use over extended periods. This depletion of the subsistence base strained the entire economy of the civilization, resulting in the gradual deterioration in town planning and living standards. Consequently, the Harappans migrated from the core regions to areas offering more sustainable living conditions. Sources play a vital role in reconstructing the past, and remnants from history serve as valuable sources. In ancient Indian history, sources can be broadly categorized into three main types: literary, archaeological, and foreign accounts. Literary sources encompass a wide range, including Vedic, Buddhist, and Jain texts, epics, Puranas, Sangam literature, biographies, poetry, and drama. Archaeological sources consist of epigraphic inscriptions, numismatic evidence, and architectural remnants discovered through archaeological excavations. Written records hold a prominent place in Indian history, but archaeological artifacts like temple remains and coins, house structures, pottery, and silos are equally significant, especially for periods lacking written records, such as prehistoric and protohistoric eras. Sources can further be classified as primary and secondary. Primary sources comprise all archaeological artifacts and written documents, including temple records, palm leaf manuscripts or talapatra, inscriptions on various surfaces like pillars, rocks, copper plates, potsherds, and more. Secondary sources are based on primary sources and are used by subsequent researchers in their historical works. Primary written sources are divided into manuscript sources or inscriptions and published materials. Careful examination of the purpose and intended audience of these records is crucial when using them as historical sources. When studying texts for historical information, several critical aspects must be considered. Upinder Singh has pointed out if a text was composed within a specific time frame, it is relatively straightforward to use as a historical source. However, texts with extended compositions over time, like the Mahabharata, pose complexities. In case of both the Mahabharata and Ramayana, critical additions have been made where different manuscripts of these texts have been analyzed and an attempt has been made to identify their original core. Questions like why a text was composed, its target audience, and its social and cultural context must be kept in mind. Texts may represent ideals rather than accurate descriptions of historical events. Many Indian religious texts contain myths that could provide historical insights but require cautious interpretation. Critical edition of texts like Mahabharata and Ramayana have been created to identify their original course by analyzing various manuscripts and interpolations. The earliest known literature originating from the Indian subcontinent is composed in Sanskrit. The term Veda is derived from the Sanskrit root Ved, meaning to know. Consequently, Veda translates to knowledge. The Vedas are considered exemplary oral literature and are traditionally believed to be heard or revealed texts. Vedic literature comprises three distinct classes of literary works: the Samhitas, the Brahmanas, and the Aranyakas. Samhitas encompass hymns, prayers, incantations, benedictions, sacrificial formulas, and litanies. There are four existing Samhitas, each distinct from the others. The Rig Veda Samhita, comprising songs of praise; the Atharvaveda, focused on magic formula; the Samveda, dealing with melodies; and the Yajurveda, which is concerned with sacrificial formulas or yajus. Brahmanas are extensive prose texts containing theological content, especially related to observations on sacrifice and practice or mystical significance of individual sacrificial rites and ceremonies. The Aranyakas are forest texts and Upanishads and the Upanishads are secret doctrines. These texts encompass the incantation of forest hermits and ascetics, exploring topics like God, the world, mankind, and the oldest Indian philosophy. The entire Vedic literature is considered sacred and is believed to have been revealed by God. Chronologically, it spans 1000 years, with some portions dating to an earlier era and others to a later period. The Rig Veda stands out as the oldest among them and comprises 10 books or mandalas. Books 2 to 6 of the Rig Veda, believed to have been composed between approximately 1500 to 1000 BCE, are often referred to as early Vedic literature. Later Vedic literature encompasses books 1, 8, 9, and 10 of the Rig Veda, along with texts from the Samved, Yajurved, and Atharved, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads, composed between 1000 BCE to 500 BCE. Despite primarily containing songs, prayers, and theological content, these texts offer valuable historical data. They provide insights into critical processes, like the transition from a pastoral pre-class caste society depicted in the Rig Veda to an agrarian class-based society, as well as the emergence of political entities in the later Vedic period. Furthermore, there exists another category of texts known as sutras, which belong to post Vedic literature. These texts have been categorized as smriti or memorized rather than heard or shruti texts, suggesting that they are composed by human sages. Although they do not hold the same sanctity as the Vedas, they are considered authoritative in their own right. The sutra texts are essentially manuals on ritual practices dated from approximately 600 to 300 BCE. They encompass the Shrota Sutra, providing rules for performing significant sacrifices, the Graha Sutra, offering directions for simple daily life ceremonies and sacrificial acts, and the Dharma Sutra, serving as instructions on spiritual and secular law, representing the oldest law books. Beyond the Sutra text, there are Smriti texts, including the Manusmriti, the Narada Smriti, and the Yajnavalkya Smriti, composed approximately 200 BCE and 900 CE. These texts provide duties for various varnas or social classes, kings and officials, while also establishing rules related to marriage, property, and punishments for offenses like theft, assault, murder, and adultery. Oral and written traditions in early India. A significant portion of early Indian literature follows the oral tradition, where knowledge was passed down from the spoken words. The Vedas, in particular, are considered Shruti, meaning they were first heard or revealed, as if the god Brahma whispered them into the ears of the first human. These sacred texts were transmitted from one generation to the next, with a strong emphasis on memorization. Lotika Varadarajan suggests that this memorization process helped preserve the sanctity of these texts and prevented them from being distorted as might have happened with written records. Knowledge was considered sacred and exclusive, only to be imparted to deserving students. The introduction of literacy in India is closely linked to the process of urbanization. With the rise of trade and commerce, the use of written scripts became more prevalent. There are references to various written documents, including notes, letters of credits, records of traded goods, and even instances of usury. The most significant manifestations of these literacy were inscriptions, with the Asokan inscriptions from the 3rd century BC being some of the earliest evidence of the use of the Brahmi script. Romila Thapar notes that Indian culture had a unique integration of both oral and written traditions, with the written form complementing the oral tradition rather than supplanting it, ensuring that writing did not become an alien or disconnected feature of the culture. Kautilya's Arthashastra is a significant legal document comprising 15 books. Books 2 and 3, possibly the work of different authors, appear to be of an earlier date. The text reached its final form at the beginning of the Common Era. While it primarily reflects the modern period, its earliest sections provide valuable insights into the early Indian politics and economic landscape. The Ramayana and Mahabharata are renowned epics, and they are categorized as the Itihasa, meaning thus it was or narratives. Their development spanned centuries, with an estimated period of roughly 500 BCE to 500 CE. Vyasa's Mahabharata, being older, likely reflects events from the 10th century BCE to the 4th century BCE. These epics contain interpolations added over time, necessitating careful analysis, considering the different chronological layers. Valmiki's Ramayana seems more unified than the Mahabharata. Excavations have verified some sites mentioned in these epics, shedding light on their historical accuracy. Both epics offer extensive information on religious sects, their integration into mainstream Hinduism, contemporary social practices, norms, and philosophical insights. Attributed to Vyasa, the Puranas consist of 18 Mahapuranas and numerous Upuranas, or secondary Puranas. Major ones were compiled around 400 CE, reflecting contributions from various authors. They are organized into 5 sections, covering the creation, recreation, periods of different Manus, genealogy of gods and rishis, and accounts of royal dynasties. Several Puranas such as Vayu, Brahmanda, Brahma, Harivamsa, Matsya, and Vishnu provide valuable historical information about his ancient India. The Puranas contain substantial genealogical data. Particularly relevant are the later genealogies of the Kali age. They also mention ancient dynasties like the Haranyakas, the Sheshunagas, Nandas, Mauryas, Shungas, Kanvas, and Andhras, and kings with names ending in Nag who ruled in northern and central India. Information not found anywhere else. The dynastic lists typically conclude with the Guptas, suggesting Purana compilation around the 4th to 6th century CE. Some later Puranas, like the Bhagavad Purana, which was the 10th century, and the Skand Purana in the 14th century, exist. Puranas are essential for understanding the history and geography of ancient India, as they provide details about rivers, lakes, mountains, and other geographical features. Additionally, they offer insights into the 3 major Hindu cults Vishnu, Shiva, and Shakti, and their integration into larger religious traditions. Puranas are seen as means through which the Brahmanas disseminated their social and religious values. The earliest Tamil literature, known as the Sangam literature, was created by poets during a period of 3 to 4 centuries. These poets congregated in institutions called Sangams, and their collective work is referred to as Sangam literature. While attributed to the first 4 centuries of the Common Era, it might have been completed by the 6th century. Some historians raise doubts about the actual existence of these gatherings, so they prefer the term early classical Tamil literature. This corpus of literature, roughly comprising 30,000 lines of poetry, explores themes of love and war, resembling ancient bardic songs. It does not primarily revolve around religious topics. The diverse background of the poets, including teachers, merchants, craftsmen, soldiers, and kings, makes these texts a valuable source for understanding the daily life of their era. Many poems mention kings or heroes by their names, detailing military achievements and gifts they bestowed upon bards and warriors, possibly suggesting recitation in court. Some of the mentioned kings, like the Chola rulers, may correspond to historical figures. The literature also provides insights into thriving towns and trade practices, supported by archaeological findings and foreign accounts. The Sangam literature mentions many flourishing towns such as Kaveri Patnam. They also speak of Yavanas coming in their own vessels and purchasing pepper for gold and supplying wine and women slaves to the natives. Their information on trade is corroborated by archaeology and foreign accounts. Another category includes biographies, poetry, and drama. Early India boasts a rich repository of literary masterpieces in the realm of drama and poetry. These works offer historians valuable insight into the respective time periods. Notable Sanskrit poets and playwrights include Ashwaghosh and Bhasa, with Ashwaghosh penning works like Buddha Charita and the Saundarananda. Bhasa, a dramatist, contributed works such as Pancharatra, Balakarita, and Swapna Vasavadatta. The renowned Kalidasa, active during the 4th and 5th centuries, created celebrated dramas like Abhisnana Shakuntalam, Malvika Agnimitram, and along with masterpieces, poetic masterpieces like the Raghuvamsha and the Meghadutam. These works offer crucial insights into the social and cultural life of the Gupta period. Additionally, ancient dramas addressing historical themes exist, such as Vishaka Datta's Mudraksha, which is 7th to 8th century, focusing on Chanakya's efforts to win over Rakshasa, a minister of the Nandas, to Chandragupta Maurya's side. Another play, the Devi Chandraguptam, delves into an incident during the reign of the king Ramagupta, a Gupta king. Narrative literature including Panchtantra, which 5th and 6th centuries, and the Katha Sarita Sagara, ocean of streams of stories. They are a collection of popular folk tales. Biography of well-known kings are an interesting piece of literature. They were written by court poets and writers in praise of the royal patrons. Banabhat's Harsh Charita talks in eulogistic terms about Harshvardhana of the Pushyabhuti dynasty. It is the oldest surviving biography in India. According to Bana, it is an adhyayika, a genre of texts related to the Itihasa tradition. It speaks highly of the king, but at the same time hints at the struggle for the throne. In addition to Sanskrit texts, Buddhist and Jain literature form essential sources for understanding early India. Buddhist Pali texts, known as the Tripitakas or three baskets, provide insights into India's state during the time of Buddha and the 16 Mahajanpadas. These texts are available in Pali, Chinese, and Tibetan versions, consisting of the Sutta, Vinaya, and Abhidhamma Pitikas. The Sutta Pitaka records Buddha's discourses on various doctrinal issues, often presented in stories, poems, or dialogues. Vinaya focuses on the rules and regulations, 227 in total for monks and nuns within the Sanghas, offering information on Buddha's life events and Buddhism's early history. The Abhidhamma Pitaka explores Buddhist philosophy from the Theravada school perspective. Notably, the Khuddaka Nikaya within the Sutta Pitaka contains the Theragatha, Therigatha, and the Jatakas, which are significant sources for historians. The Theragatha and Therigatha include verses narrated by early Sangha members, and Therigatha is particularly noteworthy for being the earliest known poetry by Indian women, providing insights into Buddhism and gender studies. Beyond canonical texts, non canonical Buddhist literature includes Milintapana, a dialogue between the Indo-Greek king Menander and the Buddhist king Nagasena. The Senelese chronicles like the Mahavamsa, which is great history, and Deepavamsa, the history of the island, offer historical accounts of Buddhism from Buddha's enlightenment to the 3rd century BCE in India and the 4th centuries in CE in Sri Lanka. Jain literature comprises another significant category of texts written in a Prakrit language known as Ardha Magadhi. Among the Jains, the Digambars have their literature in the Jain Sauraseni, whereas Shwetambar literature exists in two Ardha Magadhi dialects. Initially, Mahavira's teachings to his disciples were compiled into 14 Purvas. In the 4th century BCE, a prominent council convened in Patliputra, led by Sthulabhadra, which reconstructed the Jain canon into 12 Angas. Later in the 5th century, a council at Vallabhi formalized and transcribed the existing texts. The Shvetambaras accepted scriptures that included 12 Angas, 12 Upangas, 10 Prakarinas, 6 Cheda Sutras, 2 Sutras, and 4 Mola Sutras. These texts encompass codes of conduct, various legends, Jain doctrines, and metaphysics. In contrast, the Digambars believed that most of the original Purvas are lost. Consequently, the Digambars do not acknowledge the scriptures accepted by the Shvetambars. Instead, the Digambars rely on scriptures authored by the great Acharyas, but based on Mahavira's original teachings for the religious practices. Jain literature serve as valuable sources of information about Jainism's history and doctrine, the doctrine of rival schools, the life stories of saints, and the lives of monks within the Sanghas. As evident from the preceding discussion, a substantial portion of ancient Indian literature is characterized by its religious nature. This led to the perception that early India did not produce historical records. Indologists were searching for indications of evidence. Interest in causation, emphasis on chronology, and sequential narrative structures in early Indian Sanskrit texts. However, what they encountered instead were elements they termed as fantasy, fables, religious idioms, and exotic tales. Recent scholarly studies have made efforts to uncover how particular societies express their perspectives on the past for various reasons. Romila Thapar discusses one such tradition in early India, known as the Itihasa Purana tradition. She emphasizes the importance of recognizing that some societies choose specific forms for recording their past. These forms may include origin myths, composition praising heroes, or genealogies tracing ancient descent groups. Other texts take on a more explicit form of history, such as biographies of rulers and authoritative figures present in recognizable formats. Archaeology is a field of knowledge dedicated to the study of material culture in order to gain insights into the past. It is closely intertwined with history and focuses on various artifacts and remnants, such as sculptures, pottery fragments, bones, architectural remains, temple ruins, coins, seals, inscriptions, and even organic materials like charred grains, ancient pollen, and spores. These elements collectively constitute the subject matter of archaeology. The significance of archaeology extends beyond prehistoric and protohistoric periods, as it plays a crucial role in understanding historical periods as well. Even when written records are available, archaeology contributes valuable supplementary information. For instance, the history of the Indo-Greeks has been constructed primarily through the study of coinage. Archaeological techniques such as excavation and exploration yield a wealth of data covering various aspects of human civilization, including trade, governance, economy, societal structure, and religious practices. Moreover, archaeology provides insights into the daily lives of ancient people, including their customs, diets, and clothing. Excavations have been particularly instrumental in uncovering information about a wide range of cultures, including the Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic, Iron Age, and Megalithic periods. In the absence of a deciphered Harappan script, archaeology has been the primary source of knowledge regarding this ancient civilization, shedding light on its origins, expansion, settlement patterns, urban planning, trade, political system, agricultural practices, technology, craftsmanship, religious beliefs, and eventual decline. Coins can be discovered through archaeological excavations or found in hoards, and the study of coins is known as numismatics. These metal currencies have specific shapes, sizes, weight standards, and bear the mark of the issuing authority. A coin's message bearing side is called the obverse, while the opposite side is the reverse. The earliest evidence of coinage in early Indian history coincides with the second urbanization, marked by the rise of states, urban growth, and increased agricultural and trade activities. Early Indian coins were crafted from various metals, such as copper, silver, gold, and lead. Archaeological findings include burnt clay coin molds from the Kushana period, indicating a surge in commerce during this era. Most coins from the major dynasties have been documented and published. The earliest coins in the subcontinent were the punchmark coins, primarily made of silver and sometimes copper. As the Magadhan Empire expanded, Magadhan style punchmark coins replaced those issued by other states. While the earliest coins featured only symbols, later ones included depictions of kings, deities, and even dates and names. For instance, Western Kshatrapa coins indicated dates in the Shaka era. The geographical circulation of coins has allowed historians to reconstruct the history of several ruling dynasties. Coins also provide valuable insights into political organization. For example, the presence of the term Gana on the coins of Malavas indicate a non-monarchical form of governance. The depiction of a ship on Satavahana coins from the Deccan attests to the importance of maritime trade. Postmodern coins were crafted from various metals, including lead, copper, bronze, silver, and gold, and they were issued in significant quantities, reflecting a growth in trade. The Guptas, in particular, minted numerous well executed coins, gold coins known as dinaras. These coins featured images of the reigning kings, often depicted in different poses. However, in the post Gupta period, the number and purity of gold coins declined. This led to the disputed feudalism theory proposed by R.S. Sharma, who argued that the debasement of coinage and increased use of cowries indicated a decline in trade and commerce during this period. Nonetheless, this theory has faced criticism from various quarters. The study of inscriptions is known as epigraphy. These inscriptions are engraved on various surfaces, including seals, copper plates, temple walls, wooden tablets, stone pillars, rock surfaces, bricks, and images. The oldest inscription dating back to 2500 BCE are in the undeciphered Harappan script. The earliest deciphered inscriptions are from the time of Ashoka and have been found on rock surfaces and stone pillars across the Indian subcontinent. They were first deciphered in 1837 by James Prinsep, a civil servant with the East India Company in Bengal. Most of these inscriptions are in Brahmi and Kharoshti script. Ashokan inscriptions were royal edicts addressing various social, religious, and administrative matters directed towards officials and the general populace. The Lumbini pillar inscription, for instance, commemorates Ashoka's visit to the birthplace of Buddha. The transition to Sanskrit inscription began in the 1st century BCE, gradually replacing the earlier use of Prakrit alongside Sanskrit. Inscriptions come in various forms, including royal orders, memorials like Sati stones or hero stones, donative inscriptions recording temple or shrine construction, and royal land grants such as copper plate grant. Some inscriptions eulogize their patrons, like the Hathi Gumfa inscription of the Kharavela and the Allahabad pillar inscription of the Samudragupta. Others record the construction of water reservoirs, dams, charitable feeding houses, and ponds. Additionally, there are miscellaneous inscriptions like labels, graffiti, religious formulas, and seals. Inscriptions serve as valuable sources for understanding political, social, and economic history. They provide insights into the temporary events and lives of common people. The geographical distribution of inscription helps determine the extent of a king's rule. Many inscriptions offer information about genealogy, dynastic details, and even kings not mentioned in the main genealogies. Land grants from the Pallava, Chalukya, and Chola periods offer insights into revenue system, agriculture, and political structure. Inscriptions have diverse applications, including dating sculptures, preserving details about extinct religious sects like the Ajivikas, contributing to historical geography, aiding in the study of iconography, art, architecture, literature, languages, and performing arts like music. They are considered reliable historical sources, especially since they are not exclusively religious in nature. Now, India attracted a diverse array of travelers over the years, including pilgrims, traders, settlers, soldiers, and ambassadors. These visitors left behind accounts of their experiences and observations, which, when examined carefully, offer valuable historical insights. Greek writers mentioned Sandrocotus, believed to have met Alexander when he was young. In the 18th century, William Jones identified Sandrocotus as Chandragupta Maurya, forming the basis for modern chronology. Seleucus's envoy Megasthenes authored the Indica, chronicling his time at the court of Chandragupta Maurya as a Greek ambassador. Although the original text is lost, later references allowed scholars to reconstruct aspects of Mauryan administration, social classes, and economic activities. Greek and Roman accounts also provide information about early Indian Ocean trade. Among the pilgrims, Fahin and Yun San, Chinese Buddhist monks, left travel accounts after visiting India and its holy places and Buddhist shrines. Fahin's travels were limited to northern India from 399 to 414 CE, while Yun San, who embarked on his journey in 639 CE, spent over a decade traveling in India. Their accounts shed light on the social, religious, and economic conditions of their respective times. In later periods, Arab scholars like Al-Biruni visited India to study its people and explore Indian texts in their original language. Al-Biruni's Tahqiq-e-Hind is a comprehensive work covering various aspects of 11th century India, including scripts, sciences, geography, astrology, philosophy, literature, beliefs, customs, religions, festivals, rituals, social norms, and laws. He was the first to identify the initial year of the Gupta era. Arab Indian involvement in oceanic trade is also mentioned in Arab accounts like Suleiman's. These accounts, left by a diverse range of travelers, offer valuable glimpses into India's history and culture when examined and interpreted thoughtfully. Now, in this section of the video, we will be discussing some of the question and answers that are mentioned in this unit. The first one is discuss the three main physiographic divisions of India. Now, we've already discussed this before. The three main divisions are the Himalayan uplands, Indo-Gangetic plains, and Peninsular India. The Himalayan uplands are the youngest four mountains. They feed the Indus, Ganga, and Brahmaputra rivers and have been shaping civilizations from ancient times. The Indo-Gangetic plains is a fertile region separated from Peninsular India by the central zone with Vindhyan ranges. Peninsula India comprises diverse geography with rivers like Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri featuring Deccan Plateau and the fertile black soil. In the second question, they ask us to write a note on the nature of regions. The regions can be seen as perennial nuclear regions, area of relative isolations, and area of isolation. The third question is what is a Veda, and we must discuss the four Vedas briefly. We've discussed this in detail. The word Veda is derived from the root word Vid, which means to know. The Veda means knowledge, and there are four Vedas: Rig Ved, Sam Ved, Yajur Ved, and Athar Ved. The fourth question is what is archaeology? Enumerate the main archaeological sources for reconstruction of ancient Indian history. We'll talk about archaeology, which is a branch of knowledge that studies material culture in order to understand the past. Excavations, explorations, coins, and inscriptions are the main archaeological sources for the reconstruction of ancient Indian history. The Indian subcontinent, bordered by the Himalayas to the north and oceans to the south, southwest and southeast, might appear isolated, but it has a history of cultural exchanges and maritime connections with the West, West Asia, and Southeast Asia. Even the challenging terrain of central India hasn't completely prevented the flow of ideas and influences between the different regions. While geography and environment play a significant role in historical development, they don't entirely determine it. Inscriptions provide insights into specific historical events, but they often represent the perspectives of the elite, including kings, Brahmins, and court poets. This is where archaeological sources become valuable, shedding light on experiences of common people. Excavations, in particular, offer essential information. However, it is important to study archaeological evidence alongside literary evidence because these two sources often complement and validate each other, allowing for a more comprehensive understanding of history. With this, we come to the end of this unit. Thank you so much.